All right, guys, so we moved into this new house in October. Well, it's not new. It was built in '05, so it's roughly 16 years old. But we've got a propane fireplace here that we've never tested out. When we moved in, the gas was shut off. The inspector said legally he couldn't turn the gas on to this appliance to test it since it was already off. So I don't actually know if it works or not. But through the winter, it was very cold all around here. The tile in front of the fireplace was really cold, and you can actually feel like a breeze blowing through. There was a little cobweb or dog hair or something that was caught in the grate down here, and it was actually blowing outward into the room. Just anytime, no blower on, no nothing. It was just the draft that was coming. You can see it's kind of reflective here. This winter when it was really cold, to try to keep some of those drafts at bay, I did the plastic shrink wrap stuff that you can put on there. Just applied some double-sided tape and a hair dryer and got a plastic sheet on there, and it's helped a lot. But I want to try to get this fixed before winter rolls around again. So this fireplace, I don't see any mounting screws or hardware that go in from the sides, and I believe these are mounted in place, and then all of this tile is installed over the mounting plate. So to remove this unit, I'd actually have to rip out all the tile. And so I'm going to try to go in from the backside. So another thing that I tried is out here right on the backside of the fireplace. This is where it vents. It's one of the direct vent units. I thought maybe the issue, since the pilot light wasn't lit, that maybe it was just all coming in through the vent. And so I made this out of some radiant reflective bubble wrap stuff and just kind of taped it on there. But that didn't help at all. It didn't stop anything. So I have a feeling that I'm going to have to end up removing all of this siding and the plywood sheeting behind it and insulating. But let me go under the deck and show you from underneath. Okay, so from underneath, you can see they just kind of have it boxed in, and then there's some metal soffit material. Now I did start bending this out a little bit just to get a peek in there. All right, so we pull this down, and I can see some insulation in there, but you can see that absolutely nothing is air sealed. So I'm going to pull this down and get a better look. I have a feeling that if I pull this batt insulation out, it's just going to be hollow all the way up through there. Okay, so I just got all the soffit material out. You can see it's just framed up, and now it's probably going to be really gross. There's lots of dead bugs. I wonder how many spiders I'm going to find. Look at that. Direct hole straight in to the house where the gas line comes up to the stove and all the way up in. Not a lick of insulation, no air sealing, absolutely nothing. So that is why we had air coming straight in through here, straight in through there, and straight out the firebox. That's fantastic. So that's why I was so drafty. So I got some work ahead of me. Okay, so I'm back out on the deck. I have removed all of the siding from my little doghouse here. I've removed the direct vent and the house wrap that was on it. So my original thought was I was going to remove this entire sheet of plywood, and then I could just kind of insulate and do whatever I needed to do from the inside out, and then reapply the sheeting and put everything back together. This entire thing was skinned, and it goes all the way down below the surface of the deck. And so all of the deck framing is actually sandwiched, has this plywood sandwiched in between the deck framing, and there's some flashing down there. And so I physically can't remove that because it's helping support the deck. So the reason I cut out the top of this, I wasn't sure what was behind there, or where I needed to be. I didn't want to cut too low and risk cutting into any stovepipe or anything. And so I just picked a place and ran my circular saw across to cut that section out. So now I can actually get in here. Unfortunately, the way this was constructed, you can see that the framing isn't your typical 2x4 oriented this way. It's a 2x4 oriented flat. And so I can't actually get in a full batt insulation in there. There's just, I'd have to cut them to specific widths to fit in between here, and then they would stick way out past, and I wouldn't have a good way to keep the insulation in. So what I've decided to do is use some rigid foam insulation. So I'm going to do a layer of 1.5 inches that will fill the gap, and then I'm going to do a layer of 1/2 inch on top of that, and then a layer of drywall on top of that. Okay, a little update. I've got my 1.5 inch layer and a 1/2 inch layer on both sides. There was some framing nails that were stuck through, and so it's actually kind of just holding the, I just pushed the foam straight into those nails. On the front, I've got 1.5 inches between the framing here, leaving my space for the intake / exhaust pipe. Can't have any combustibles within 1 inch around the exhaust of the stovepipe. Also, if it's a horizontal run, you got to be 2 inches above the top of it. So I'm gonna be fine with that. This is a solid piece of 1.5 inches. Okay, so I've got drywall on the side walls and the front or outside wall. Now I'm going to cut my piece for the bottom and work it through drywall first, and then insulation underneath it, and I have to piece that one together. Okay, so I'm underneath here. You can see I've got the two pieces cut in. I have removed my blocking from over here that I'm going to screw to. I've also removed this center support so I can get these whole pieces up in here. So I'm going to drop one of these down. So that's looking up into my opening above. Okay, view from the top side. Definitely some light gap through there, but that will get caulked and sealed up. Same on the other side. I'll probably spray foam around that gas line just to seal that up. And then once I get my center support back in, after I caulk the seam, I will put a screw or two in here in the center support. And how I'm going to do that, because this is 38 long, and then this is about 50 inches high off the deck, and I can't reach that far. So I've got my impact driver with a 1/4 inch socket drive on there, and then two pretty long 1/4 inch drive extensions, and then a little bit holder that has a little collar to slide up to keep the screw on there, and it's magnetic. So that is what I'm going to be using. And so I am ready to caulk. Problem is, this is 50 inches tall, so I have to reach 50 inches down to there to caulk those seams. And I've got long arms, but not quite that long of arms. So I modified a tool and made an extended caulk gun. And so here it is. I've got another video kind of describing how I put this together, and I'll put it up in one of those corners. And so I need to get my caulk open and get this sealed up. All right, guys, it's the next morning. I've got my seams caulked down there. It's kind of a messy job. My extended caulk gun didn't work as well as I expected because with it being a screw drive, the tube of caulk wanted to spin. And if I put a zip tie around it, it probably would have been okay, but I didn't think that far in advance. But also because the actual nozzle from the tube of caulk is only about that long, but the diameter of the tube of caulk is about 2 inches, and I have such a confined space here, I couldn't actually get in those corners very well, so I just kind of had to glob some caulk down there, and then I got a piece of like 4 or 5 foot long 1/2 inch PVC pipe and just used it as my spreading tool. So these joints are kind of messy, but they're sealed up. The center joint I have sealed from the bottom. I did what little I could to the left of the gas line there, but I've got it caulked up from the bottom, as well as the joint along the inside wall. So my next step is going to be, I temporarily put some of this aluminum tape to seal around this little pipe elbow, because this is just a giant gap that goes into this firebox, which goes directly into the house. So I kind of did that temporarily. Once I get all of this sealed up, this will be somewhat a conditioned area or an insulated area. So this wouldn't be as vital, but I am still going to remove this, and I'm just going to use 100% silicone here. With the way this pipe works, you've got exhaust hot coming out of the middle, but this outside ring is all cold intake air that comes in from the outside. So the outer edge of this pipe should never be much above ambient temperature. So 100% silicone should hold up just fine to that. So you can see down there on the very bottom, my aluminum tape has already split just from this being able to wiggle around. So I'm gonna get it sealed up with some silicone. And then this pink rigid insulation is supposed to have a thermal barrier. So I'm gonna use the same aluminum tape and just cover all of these edges here, just to be safe. Okay, so I built my little wooden frame here for my upper baffle. I just tacked it up here on the wall with some screws, and then I did some zip ties just to hold the insulation up, and then I put a piece of 1/2-inch drywall under that, screwed it into this framing, and then I slid the whole thing down so that it made a nice little envelope. So now just gonna try to caulk these seams all the way around and put my stovepipe back together and redo the siding. All right, guys, so I got the inside all caulked up, this inner or the top baffle. I also used some silicone, some white, or started with clear, but then I switched to white because I ran out around the center pipe. And I made a mistake. I screwed that top baffle into place before I caulked around this pipe, so I had to do it just through this hole here. So that was pretty interesting. Instead of using a regular tube of caulk, I used these squeeze tubes because I would have never been able to get a regular caulking gun in there. I've also seen people that will take a regular caulking tube and they'll slide a flexible, like some vinyl tubing over the tip of the caulk, and they'll have like an extended nozzle that they can manipulate through a longer distance. The only downside to that is you end up with a bunch of waste caulk inside the extension tip. So I'm pretty much ready to start buttoning up on the outside. All right, so I just had some galvanized sheet metal that I cut into some 4 1/4 inch wide strips, just a scrap that I had. And so I brought a piece on the corner and folded it around, and I overlapped a piece to about here. These are just 2 foot wide sections. Same thing on this side, overlapped, folded around. And so now I can put my house wrap back on and start doing the siding. Siding back on, exhaust cap is back on. I got this cap up here caulked. I've also got around this caulked. And so the top section is done. All right, here I am under the deck. See, that's the back side of the drywall. So now I'm gonna do some 1.5-inch foam in against that. All right, first layer of 1.5 inch is in. I'm gonna overlay it with some 1/2 inch and then caulk the seams. And then a layer of 1/2 inch foam over the top, around the gas line where it comes out of the house, out the sidewall. I was gonna just do spray foam around that, but I decided to just cut some circles of 1.5 inch foam, and then I cut a little notch out for the gas line, and then just caulked over the top of the whole thing. So nice snug fit, keep the air out, keep the bugs out. Should be pretty sealed up now, nice and airtight. All the ventilation, all the intake and exhaust happens through the one exhaust cap. So this stove that I've got, it's got a sealed burn chamber, so everything should be self-contained inside that burn chamber. So that's going to be it for this one. I know this is going to be a huge benefit to us as far as not letting so much cold air in. I may actually get the pilot light lit on the fireplace this winter and be able to use it. And it's 90 some odd degrees out here right now, so I can't even fathom lighting any heat producing appliance. So I probably won't show a clip of doing this. Again, it's vinyl soffit material, tons of videos. I haven't really showed you how I've done anything, just the results of what I've done. So if you have a lot of cold drafts coming in through your fireplace, you may investigate, because a lot of these houses get built in really fast. I was talking to my neighbor about it, and he said he knows who built this house, but he said it seems like anytime they're building and then they've actually got a contract for a buyer, that they just finish the house as quickly as possible and cut corners like this. So this has been like this for 15 years, and on the mild winters it's probably not that big of a deal, but on super cold winters like we had last year, it's a major heat suck. So it's definitely going to be nice to not have a gaping hole in the side of my house. So if this was helpful, let me know. Leave some comments down below. I'd be curious if you've done anything like this before. And this may not be the correct way to do it, but it's how I chose to do it, because I didn't want to rip everything out from the inside and have a giant mess in the house. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.